6:30 a.m. The Answer. Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt is sponsored by the Marquardt Law Firm and does not attempt to solve your individual legal problems upon the basis of information contained herein. Instead, contact an attorney to discuss the specific facts and circumstances of your unique situation. The views and opinions of this program do not reflect the views of the Salem Media Group.
Be seated.
It's time for Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt. Todd Marquardt, attorney at law in Texas. If you're a millionaire or a thousandaire, Talk Law Radio is now on the air. Call in with your business law question, your elder law question, veteran aid, Medicaid, build a business to get paid. 210-308-8867. Or ask a question online at marquardtlawfirm.com. That's MARQUARDT lawfirm.com. And now it's Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt.
Welcome to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. On the radio, on podcasts everywhere, on Facebook Live today, Saturday, February 14th, Valentine's Day.
Yep.
And we're going to do the financial focus. But first, I want to let you know what the theme of the show is. We're going to be talking about, is there a problem with non-citizens voting in federal elections? What is the current law about elections? I'm going to talk about the SAVE Act, which has passed the House but has not passed the Senate yet. We're going to review a section of the Constitution, discuss Governor Greg Abbott's opinions about the SAVE Act, talk about ICE removals and the Homeland Security budget. But first, let's check in with Joseph Warren, financial planner with FinancialPlanningHQ. They act as CEO for successful people. He owns and operates Financial Planning HQ with his brother Jacob and his father Steve. So for the financial focus segment, we're going to talk about tax-free retirement.
Yeah, we're talking about a tax-free retirement, and it sounds kind of gimmicky, but I really want to go over how you can reverse engineer and create a tax-free retirement if you have a runway.
So what you're going to be talking about is if somebody's already retired, how they can use their money tax-free.
It's more for people who have some time to plan ahead, so maybe you have 5 years or more until retirement. But I definitely would encourage anyone to listen, even if you're already retired, because there are things you can do to make your retirement more tax efficient. But when you have a runway, you can really reverse engineer a plan where you utilize and fill up 0% tax brackets to truly create a tax-free retirement. It's possible, and we're going to break down exactly how to do that today.
Okay, well, tell us, how does that even work? Is it even possible?
Yes, Todd, it is possible, and I'm really going to break it down. So first you have to think about what they call the 0% tax bracket. That's really made up of the standard deduction, right? So that for people who are single, I have the numbers here. I have them memorized, but $16,100 if you're single, $32,200 is the 0% tax bracket. And then you can get a little bit more if you're over age 65, right? There's a little bit extra that they'll give you at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
But what you do is you fill up that tax bracket with pre-tax distributions. So that would be money like in an IRA, a 401k, money that's never been taxed. And when you take it out, it's completely taxable. So say you're in the 37% tax bracket and you take $100,000 out of a 401k, you would have to pay taxes on 37%. So $37,000 of that would be taxable.
Okay.
And that really gets to the heart of why tax-free income is so much more powerful than taxable income. So you fill up that 0% bracket or the standard deduction with your pre-tax money. So if you're married, say, you would take $32,200 out of your 401k, and you've effectively filled out, you have $32,000 of tax-free income.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. So that's very interesting. $32,200 in tax-free income. But how can you get up to $133,000 for married couples?
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about how you can get to about $66,000 if you're single and $133,000 if you're married and tax-free income. So, it's hard to live off $32,000 nowadays, and we want to talk about how you can have a thriving retirement with tax-free income. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to exploit another 0% tax bracket. So we have that one, but there's also the capital gains tax bracket.
Okay.
If you're married, it's 98,900 in capital gains you can take per year, and that's taxed at 0%. If you're single, it's $49,150. So you add that up, right? You add up that 98,900 plus 32,200, and that's at least $131,000 in tax-free income that you could have in early retirement.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
That's a good amount, and actually, you could even get more than that, right? So if you're have money in a Roth, you could also use a Roth to add on top of that, and that's also tax-free. Or you could use reimbursements from past medical expenses that you paid out of pocket with the health savings account as well. So you could even get more than that if you need to, but most people are fine. Most married couples would be fine with 131,000, 133.
Depends on the lifestyle, I guess.
Yeah, it depends on, the lifestyle you want to have in early retirement. But the point is that it is possible, but it takes planning to get there.
Right.
Is the point I want to make, and that's why I'm really targeting this towards people who have maybe 5 years or more of a runway until retirement, so we can really look to optimize how you're locating the assets in your retirement accounts or non-retirement accounts to create as much tax efficiency for you as possible.
So are you talking about 5 years before they take Social Security? Is that the retirement period that you're talking about?
I'm talking about just 5 years until you plan to retire, even if you plan to retire early.
What if I plan to retire when I'm 85?
Even then, the sooner. So there's a I think it's John F. K. who said it, or John F. Kennedy who said it. It might be an ancient Chinese proverb, but the best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago, is the saying.
Right.
But the next best time is right now.
Okay.
So the sooner you do it, the better. Even if you are retiring now, there are things you could do when it comes to distributions, Roth conversions, to maybe not have a completely tax-free retirement, like the ideal, but to make it more tax efficient, so more of the money stays in your pocket, doesn't go to the IRS. And, it can be used things like spending time with family, passing on to your kids,
Right.
instead of, however the IRS might use it, might not be as good as how you would use it.
Yeah, or making a difference in people's lives.
Yep.
Are there any other factors to keep in mind for this type of strategy?
Yeah, it also kind of speaks to Social Security, which is important. So this strategy of tax-free income in retirement works best if you can delay Social Security. And it makes sense to delay Social Security if you're in good health. So if you have a longer life expectancy, that's when it makes sense to do it. If you don't have a longer life expectancy, it's better to take it earlier. So your health actually, I think financial planners, a lot of people don't think about it, but your health has a huge impact on your financial strategy. I'm almost starting to think like there should be almost a health questionnaire when you're bringing in financial planning clients.
Right.
Of like how what's your life expectancy, so we can plan around that.
Right.
But the reason for that is because those provisional income tax brackets for Social Security, they haven't changed since 1983. So if you're single, you start getting taxed at $25,000 on Social Security of income, which is very easy to hit. That's a 1983 number. And if you're married, $32,000, you start getting taxed. So most people who are taking Social Security are going to have some taxation of that. So the longer you can delay that, the better. And you can use that time where you're delaying to put more money into the Roth. And then later on, you could use the Roth in the later stage to create a tax-free retirement. Because Roth distributions do not impact Social Security.
Right.
So I kind of, I wanted to show this complicated chemical here. I don't know if y'all can see it. This is vitamin B12. I used to work in an organic chemistry lab. I talked about that my first time here when I went to UCLA. When we were learning how to create complex chemicals like this, you work backwards. You reverse engineer. It's called retrosynthesis. So you say, this is the final result I want. And what's one step before this? What's one chemical reaction I could do before this to get, work backwards to simple reactants or simple chemicals to create this. And we can do that exact same thing. That exact same principle applies to a tax-free income. So if you want to schedule an appointment to map this out, you could just give me a call at 210-444-2128. And we would come up with the exact amount you need to have in each type of account: 401k, non-qualified investment account, right, for those capital gains distributions, and Roth IRA for the later phase of it. And then we would work backwards and say, these are the exact actions to take to create your own tax-free retirement. And even if that's not possible, even if you don't have the time, the runway to do it, to create one that's a lot more tax efficient than it would be just doing the default that everybody does.
Doesn't somebody that's age 25, for example, need to do that same thing?
25, I'm happy to talk to you. I don't know. I know it seems like the listeners here are not 20. It seems like it's like a little older adults. You may correct me if I'm wrong.
Right. No, that's demographic.
But
About
you
40
yes,
to
if you're
50.
25 and you could put a lot of money into, you kind of think about it, you would want a lot of money in a Roth, a lot of money in a non-qualified investment account, and some money in an IRA, but just enough so that it would fill up that 0% bracket or the lower tax brackets.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us. Be sure to call Joseph at 210-444-2128, 210-444-2128 to schedule the tax-free retirement consultation.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's.
We'll be right back. Are you confident about your financial future? What if you had a clear financial roadmap and a team holding you accountable to make the best financial decisions no matter what? At Financial Planning HQ, Steve and his sons, Joseph and Jacob, have been helping San Antonio families since 1987 with inspiring, intelligent financial strategies. Whether it's achieving or maintaining financial independence, becoming more tax efficient, or building business wealth, we create a comprehensive, written lifetime financial strategy that's uniquely yours, based entirely on what's important to you. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Call Financial Planning HQ today at 210-685-2722. That's 210-685-2722. And take the first step towards financial clarity. That's Financial Planning HQ, inspiring financial strategies for San Antonio. Remember, 210-685-2722. Losing a loved one is hard. I'm Todd Marquardt, and I help families like yours navigate probate with clarity and compassion. Don't go through it alone. Call 210-530-4278. That's 210-530-4278. Or visit marquardtlawfirm.com to get answers and peace of mind. Do it before you die.
9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. Today I'm talking about the SAVE Act and whether you think it's a problem that non-citizens are voting in our elections, or is it? Call me right now on the show live, 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. We're on the radio here in San Antonio on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, 6:30 a.m. The Word. Also KNTH 1070 and 103.3 FM in Houston, Texas. I'd like to hear somebody from Houston. Call in and let me know your opinion about the SAVE Act. Let me know whether you think that there's non-citizens voting in elections, and whether I should be deporting people, and whether we should fund Homeland Security. We're going to be talking about all this stuff because this is a hidden legal issue blind spot. And so now it's time to discover your hidden legal issue blind spots by listening to me talk about the law on the radio. So first, I'm going to be talking about the SAVE Act and whether or not non-citizens are really voting. So I want you to call the show and let me know about that. People on X have been posting about this a lot recently. Users are sharply divided about whether or not that's a real problem. And I found a case where it actually happened, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. First, I'm going to talk about the proposed statute. The SAVE Act is short for Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. It requires individuals to provide documentary proof of U.S. citizenship when registering to vote in federal elections. So this is a registration requirement. Right now, I think when you register to vote, you just answer a bunch of questions. One of the questions is, are you a citizen? and you swear under oath, I guess, whether or not you are, but you don't have to give any proof of your citizenship at the time of registration. We'll talk about another court case where a state actually did have that requirement and how all this ties together. So the SAVE Act prohibits states from accepting and processing an application to register to vote in a federal election unless the applicant presents documentary proof of U.S. citizenship. And the bill specifies what documents are considered acceptable proof of U.S. citizenship, such as identification that complies with the Real ID Act of 2005 that indicates U.S. citizenship. The bill also prohibits states from registering an individual to vote in a federal election unless at the time the individual applies to register to vote, the individual provides documentary proof and requires states to establish an alternative process under which an applicant may submit other evidence to demonstrate U.S. citizenship. And so some of the people that are posting on X that are opposed to the SAVE Act, they say that it's too hard to prove citizenship. People don't know where their birth certificate is. They don't have a passport. Or they're married and they had a different name on their birth certificate, and so they say it's too hard. Do you think it's too hard to prove citizenship? Call me right now at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. Is this something that's needed? Do we need to stop non-citizens from voting in our elections? Do you know somebody that voted? Have you heard of this at the voter registration office? So the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act is federal legislation that amends the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. So there was a different law that addressed this same question. But I want to bring up another point that a friend of mine was talking about. He said, aren't there other laws that require you to present identification? Like when you go to the grocery store and you buy a 6-pack of beer, you have to show an ID to prove that you're old enough to buy the beer, because there's a law that says you have to be over the age of 21. And so you have to present an ID there. Also, I learned under the Immigration Nationality Act, aliens must carry their alien registration card. Now, I know that some people out there in Radio Land, like my friend Shannon, who's with me sometimes, doesn't like that word alien. And I'm not saying it to gaslight you. I'm saying it because that's what the word in the law that means a non-citizen. So non-citizens, if they're here legally, they have to carry their registration card. And if somebody asks them for it, they have to show it. What are some other things that you have to show your ID? Well, when you go to the airport, domestic air travel, it's part of the Real ID Act of 2005. You have to present the Real ID compliant state driver's license or state ID, or a passport, or a military ID, or the DHS Trusted Traveler Card at TSA checkpoints. You have to present your ID when you're opening a bank account because of the Bank Secrecy Act of 1970 and the USA Patriot Act of 2001. You have to show an ID card to prove that you're authorized to work in the United States. Yeah, if you go to work for a new employer, they're going to ask you to fill out an I-9, and they're going to ask you for identification. And there's all types of different combinations of different forms of identification that you can present there, like a driver's license, like a social security card, like a birth certificate, like a passport, and there's some others that aren't coming to my mind right now. Another thing that you need an ID for is purchasing firearms because of the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act of 1993. For background checks with NICS, you need to show an ID when you apply for federal benefit programs like Social Security and veterans benefits. You have to present an ID if you're driving. You have to have a license to drive. If an officer pulls you over and you don't present your identification, you can get in trouble for that. All 50 states plus Washington, D.C. require a valid driver's license on your person while operating a vehicle. Some states do require voter ID at the polls. There's 36 states that require that. 23 states require a photo. 13 states will accept a non-photo. The Help America Vote Act of 2002 mandates ID for first-time mail registrants in all states. If a police officer stops you on the sidewalk and asks you for identification, in Texas at least, you have to give your name. You can't just not answer any questions. So now the police do have to have reasonable suspicion or probable cause to stop and start asking you questions. They have to have reasonable suspicion to stop you and pull you over on the highway. So if you think that the officer didn't have reasonable suspicion or probable cause, contact your friendly criminal defense lawyer. Another thing that you need an identification for, that's what I began with, was alcohol, also tobacco. But have you ever tried to buy the decongestant medication over the counter at your local pharmacy? You have to present an ID for that as well. So it's common for us to have to present identification in various situations. So do you think it's unreasonable for people to refuse to present identification when it comes to vote? Call me now at the station, 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. Give me your opinion. Does this make you upset? Does this make you concerned about the country and where we're going? Here's some opinions that I read on X about the SAVE Act. Some people are opposed to it, like I said before. Here's somebody, Representative Tim Burchett, says it disgusts me. It's racist. Really? I don't know. And then there's others that support it. Representative Daniel Goldman says, do you have a passport? Do you know where your birth certificate is? If the answer is no, then you can't vote. Well, I think people would probably find those documents if they knew that it was required to vote. If you go to get your driver's license for the very first time, or if you accidentally let it expire, you have to dig that stuff up out of your files, and your Social Security card, your birth certificate, your passport, whatever you have to prove your identification in order for the DMV to issue your driver's license, because they want to make sure you are who you say you are. Oh, here's another thing you need an ID for. If a notary is going to acknowledge your signature on a legal document. Again, the notary is there to verify you are who you say you are, so that people aren't impersonating you. You don't want people impersonating you. You don't want people voting under your name, and then you get to the polls and then they won't let you vote because they say you already voted. So this is some of the reasons why identification is being required. Again, talking about the SAVE Act. It's a federal proposed law that did pass the House of Representatives, has not yet passed the Senate. And so if you're concerned about this, call your senator, email your senator, write a letter like we did in the olden days. So I want to know what you think about this. Post a comment on Facebook. If you're watching this later and it's on YouTube, post a comment there. I want to know what people think about this, because if you watch the news, the big media is trying to say that it's not necessary, it's not legal, it's going to disenfranchise people, it's going to make it harder to vote. Let me know what you think. Call the show, 210-308-8867. When we come back, I'm going to talk about some existing federal laws about elections. So stay tuned.
Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt is sponsored by the Marquardt Law Firm and does not attempt to solve your individual legal problems upon the basis of information contained herein. Instead, contact an attorney to discuss the specific facts and circumstances of your unique situation. The views and opinions of this program do not reflect the views of the Salem Media Group.
Come back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. In the beginning, God had one law. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then he gave Moses the 10 Commandments. And now we have municipal, state, and federal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws, laws that might impact you without you knowing it. Listen to Talk Law Radio every Saturday and Sunday afternoons if you want to on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, at 4:30 in the afternoon, or you can watch on Facebook or YouTube, also podcasts everywhere, or talklawradio.com. Go to talklawradio.com and search for the archived episodes where you can learn about all kinds of other laws: business law, estate planning law, probate, guardianship, trust administration, Medicaid planning, and veterans benefits, as well as federal law and constitutional law like we're talking about today. I've been talking about the SAVE Act, which is a new federal registration to vote law. And I'm going to say something really shocking. We already have a federal law on voting, and it's in 18 U.S.C. 611. It prohibits non-citizens from voting. Did you know that? Call me at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867, and let me know what you think about this already existing law that prohibits non-citizens from voting in federal elections. It's a criminal offense if they vote for offices such as president, vice president, and members of Congress. So I'm going to tell you about a situation where this actually happened. It's a case called In Re Fitzpatrick. The offender was a native and citizen of Peru whose non-immigrant status was adjusted to that of lawful permanent resident of the United States on June 4th, 2004. So a lawful permanent resident is still not a citizen. On August 5th, a year later, 2005, she applied for an Illinois driver's license and signed a voter registration application in which she checked a box indicating that she was a United States citizen. That was a lie. She wasn't a citizen. She filed an application for naturalization another year later, 2007, in which she indicated that she had registered to vote and had actually voted in an election in the United States. This is a real court case, folks. So for those of you that are saying that non-citizens are not voting, this is an actual example of it. So she voted. She put on her application for naturalization that she had voted. And on January 2008, the Department of Homeland Security issued her a notice to appear, alleging that she voted in the general election in Illinois in November 2006 in violation of this existing law, 18 U.S.C. 611. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. And charged her to be removed from the United States under Section 237A6 of the Immigration and Nationality Act as an alien who voted in violation of the law. She was also charged for falsely representing herself to be a United States citizen. So she said that she shouldn't be removed because she didn't intend to violate the statute. She doesn't dispute that she confessed to all of this, that she did vote in the general election, and she knew she was not a United States citizen. So the court opinion says, in meeting its burden of proof to establish the respondent's removability, DHS does not need to show that the respondent knew she was committing an unlawful act by voting in the election. The statute, 18 U.S.C. 611, contains no specific intent requirement. Instead, it's a general intent statute which does not require proof that the alien knew she was violating the law. So the law here is that an alien who votes in an election involving candidates for federal office in violation of 18 U.S.C. 611 is removable under Section 237A6 Big A of the Immigration and Nationality Act. So there you have it. It actually did happen, and the existing federal law did not stop it from happening. It only criminalizes it after the fact. And so, given all of this information that you're now learning that the mainstream media doesn't tell you about, does that change your opinion? Call me at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867, or comment live on Facebook now. Go to Facebook, search for Talk Law Radio, look for the Lady Justice logo in the red, white, and blue colors. We're live right now. Some people say that it's not constitutional for the federal government to make laws about elections, that's reserved to the states. So now I'm going to talk about the Constitution. United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1 says, the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time, by law, make or alter such regulations except as to the place of choosing senators. So the Constitution gives authority to the states to make election law, but Congress may at any time, by law, make or alter such regulations, and they actually did. And I just told you about one of those laws, and here's another one. The National Voter Registration Act of 1993. This isn't new. In fact, the SAVE Act is an amendment to the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. So for those politicians that are saying it's not constitutional for Congress and the Senate to make a law about voting and registration and elections are just plain wrong. And if you think I'm wrong, call me right now at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867, or post a comment on Facebook or YouTube, or email me at host@talklawradio.com. That's HOST@talklawradio.com. So the National Voter Registration Act of 1993 was known as the Motor Voter Law because it established a law that required states to allow people to register to vote when they were getting their driver's license. So it's an actual law. And I have another court case for you. Today's Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2026, and I found a case called Foster versus Love. Isn't that cute? On Valentine's Day, we get to talk about a court case involving a person named Love. Well, it's funny to me. So in this case, Foster versus Love, in Louisiana, there was a law that said there would be an open primary. This was back in 1975 to occur before the Uniform Federal Election Day in November. And the Supreme Court had to deal with this. The Supreme Court delivered a unanimous opinion and held that Louisiana's open primary is applied to select among congressional candidates. In October, it conflicted with federal law, and to that extent was void. And so this is an example of how federal law superseded the state law. And so for those of you who say that it's not constitutional for federal law to be involved in elections because you think that's reserved to the states through Article 1 of the Constitution, you're wrong, because the Supreme Court decided this case and said that the federal law was constitutional and the state law had to fall in line. There's another case where the state of Arizona tried to require people registering to vote to show their ID. And so the National Voter Registration Act, the one I was just mentioning, required states to accept and use a uniform federal form to register voters for federal elections. Well, the state of Arizona was using that form, but they also said you have to present an ID when you're registering to vote. And this court case is called Arizona versus Intertribal Council of Arizona Incorporated. And the court here said that requiring the ID altered the federal statute, which just required the form. And the form just requires that you say that whether or not you're a citizen. And so if you swear under oath that you're a citizen, they just have to process that paperwork. And unless they have facts that indicate otherwise, they just have to accept it. We got to take a break. We'll be right back. This is Talk Law Radio. Are you 100% confident that no matter what happens in the financial markets, economy, or world events, you will achieve your financial goals? If not, we have a process to get your financial house in perfect order and keep it that way forever. Your financial future shouldn't be a guessing game. Planning, advice, organization, and accountability are deliverables you should expect. For over 35 years, Financial Planning HQ has been San Antonio's trusted partner for comprehensive written lifetime financial strategies. Steve and his team, including sons Joseph and Jacob, don't believe in a one-size-fits-all approach. Instead, they create a personalized financial roadmap for you based on what's important to you. As an independent registered investment advisor, they're not tied to any big corporation's products. They work for you, creating inspiring, intelligent financial strategies that put your interests first. Call Financial Planning HQ at 210-685-2722. That's 210-685-2722. Losing a loved one is hard. I'm Todd Marquardt, and I help families like yours navigate probate with clarity and compassion. Don't go through it alone. Call 210-530-4278. That's 210-530-4278. Or visit marquardtlawfirm.com to get answers and peace of mind. Do it before you die.
9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. Today I'm talking about the SAVE Act and whether non-citizens are voting, whether we should require registration to vote with a picture ID. And big media has been trying to create controversy by saying that Greg Abbott opposes the SAVE Act because they heard him talking about keeping election laws local for state and local elections and did not want the federal government interfering in that. But he overtly expressed appreciation and support for the SAVE Act. So I just wanted to point out that error. And I also want to let you know, if you haven't seen the news lately, that the Homeland Security budget was not passed yesterday. So there are certain things that are currently unfunded. Much of immigration enforcement is funded through the Big Beautiful Bill Act, also known as the HR funding bill. And also, I'm going to talk about some sinners and saints, but we're not playing the music anymore because Facebook got upset. They thought that I was trying to infringe on the copyright for that song. And I wasn't, because you're allowed to use music for a certain number of seconds. But anyway, that's why we're not playing that song. I did want to let you know about a sinner, though. And it's not an individual sinner. It's something that's going on here in San Antonio, Bexar County. And that's where people are getting calls telling them that they missed jury duty. And then the person says, but you're under a gag order. You can't talk about this. So you can't call your husband and tell him that you're on the phone with me right now. And you can go down to the courthouse and pay your fine. But then the caller says, on second thought, don't go to the courthouse because you might be arrested and jailed for this. Instead, go to this Bitcoin ATM machine and pay your fine there. And there was a recent case where somebody paid over $22,000 going to different Bitcoin ATM machines around the city. And the reason I know about this is because I saw a live video yesterday on Facebook by Sheriff Salazar, Bexar County Sheriff's Office, talking about this. And so if you get a call from somebody that says you missed jury duty, hang up right away. Hang up right away and tell your parents about this, because your parents may not be listening to this show right now. They might not be on social media watching the Bexar County Sheriff give a live press conference. And if you're in Houston, I'm interested in what's going on in Houston. Did they catch that serial killer that's dumping bodies in the bayou? I'd like to know that. Email me at host@talklawradio.com. That's HOST @talklawradio.com. The saint, of course, is Saint Valentine's. And so, well, not Saint Valentine's, it's Saint Valentine. And I asked Grok, which is the AI for X, to tell me the origin of Valentine's Day. And correct me if I'm wrong. You can always correct me by posting comments, calling the show, or emailing me. But this is what Grok said. And that the ancient Roman origins of the holiday began with Lupercalia. It was a mid-February festival honoring fertility, purification, and the coming of spring. Then Saint Valentine, a real 3rd century martyr, he was a bishop of the church, and this is what happened. There was an Emperor Claudius II who banned marriages for young men because he said single soldiers fought better. And so Saint Valentine was secretly marrying Christian couples that wanted to be married. While in prison, he befriended his jailer's blind daughter, healed her, and sent her a farewell note signed, "From your Valentine." Now, some of this could be a myth. We don't really know, but these are the stories that predate what we know as Valentine's Day. Then, in 14th century medieval times, there was an English poet named Geoffrey Chaucer who wrote in 1382 a poem called The Parliament of Fowls, or The Parliament of Birds. And in that poem, he writes, "For this was on Saint Valentine's Day, when every fowl cometh there to choose his mate." Then, of course, over time, people started sending each other letters. And then in the 1860s, Cadbury introduced heart-shaped chocolate boxes. And in 1913, Hallmark sold its first Valentine's cards. And so I call it a Hallmark holiday. It's not real if it's not a church holiday to me. But anyway, that's the sinners and the saints. Now we're going to talk about legacy.
And now, it's time for the Talk Law Radio Legacy Spotlight. What's your legacy? Sponsored by Marquardt Law Firm.
Most of you know Marquardt Law Firm sponsors the show, and attorneys at Marquardt Law Firm focus on business and estate law, including last wills, living trusts, and tax-protected inheritance plans. It's all about legacy. And so today the legacy is estate planning as an act of love. And so it's not just paperwork that you're doing, it's caring for your loved ones. You might think of daily acts of kindness, support, or simply being there for them. I think about leaving all my stuff to those who I care about, leaving money to those organizations that truly make a difference in people's lives. And so, if you want to make sure that your family's protected, if you want to make sure that your legacy is preserved, do an estate plan, do a last will, do a living trust if it makes sense to you. Estate planning protects your family during difficult times. Having a clear plan spares your loved ones from confusion and conflict, allows them to focus on what matters most, each other. It preserves your legacy. You've probably worked hard for what you have. I know I have. It ensures your assets go to the right people at the right time in the right way. It reduces stress and cost. It avoids unnecessary delays and expenses. Estate planning can help safeguard your dignity. Planning for incapacity means that decisions about your health are in line with your values. And it can include a last will, living trust, power of attorney documents, living will, and more. It can also address special needs, blended families, business interests. Every family is unique, and your plan should reflect that. Many people worry about leaving a mess behind or about family disagreements. A good estate plan is a roadmap. It reduces uncertainty. It helps keep relationships strong. So if you've recently married, divorced, welcomed a new child or grandchild, bought or sold property, or if it's been a few years since you've reviewed your plan, now is a great time to take another look. Attorneys at Marquardt Law Firm are here to guide you through every step. They'll listen to your goals, explain your options, and help you create a plan that fits your family and honors your wishes. So if you want to do that, go to marquardtlawfirm.com. That's M as in mother, ARQUAR, D as in David, T as in Timothy, lawfirm.com, or call 210-530-4278. 210-530-4278. Okay, so that's the legacy segment. There's still some more stuff that I wanted to talk about in regards to the SAVE Act. That's the Safeguard America Voting. Let me find it here. Voter Eligibility Act. So I'm still interested to hear from you, but the show is almost over. So just email me at host@talklawradio.com. Sorry about that. I'm running out of air. It's a proposed statute that requires voter identification. And so if that's important to you, let me know. Sorry, I have to take a drink of water. We only have a couple minutes left. Let me say a prayer. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you for all the gifts and blessings that you give to us. Please forgive us for our sins, for our mistakes, for doing the wrong thing or failing to follow your will. Please help us to follow your will more closely. Please help our legislators in Washington decide whether we need voter identification when registering to vote under the SAVE Act. Please help us to get along with one another so that we can live in peace and harmony. Help us to trust you and to share the love of Jesus with others. Pray in Jesus' name. Amen. I've been talking about the SAVE Act. I've been talking about whether non-citizens are really voting, whether that's a problem. Been talking about Governor Abbott's opinion about the SAVE Act and about the Homeland Security not being funded. So please go to YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, just search for Talk Law Radio, look for the Lady Justice. I'll talk to you later. I'm Todd Marquardt.
Most families don't realize they have hidden legal blind spots until it's too late. Wills, trusts, Medicaid planning, even protecting a business. These are the kinds of issues attorney Todd Marquardt helps uncover before they become problems. Todd is the host of Talk Law Radio, where each week he guides listeners through the legal challenges families, veterans, and business owners face, while showing them the practical steps to protect what matters most. Catch Talk Law Radio, Saturdays at 11 a.m. on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, 6:30 a.m. The Word, and now in Houston on AM 1070 and 103.3 FM The Answer, or anytime on YouTube. Planning isn't just about documents. It's about peace of mind, security for loved ones, and building a legacy that lasts. Don't wait for a crisis. Do it before you die.